Serious, in the spirit of October, what's the creepiest or most paranormal experience that has happened to you? The house I grew up in, from the age of 8 until I left for college. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-story, out in the country. The couple that had sold it to us did so because all of their children now had families of their own and they no longer had a use for such a large house. The husband had built the house along with his father back in the late 1950s. In the early 1980s the father had been moved into the large back family room for home hospice care and eventually died there. His wife would later have the same fate, dying in the same room. When we moved into the house in 1995 we began to notice strange activity around the house, usually happening when someone was home alone. Small things here and there like footsteps upstairs or the sound of someone groaning. When my dad decided to start remodeling the house in 2000, that's when things got really weird. My mom swore up she saw a figure standing in the back family room, a tall dark shape just facing the wall and swaying back and forth. My brother said he saw a glass cup fly off the counter in the kitchen and smash on the ground. As for me, my experience came when I saw the face of a man staring at me through the shower curtain one morning in my bathroom. I had 2 friends stay the night and they both left, saying they would never sleep there again, after one of them said he too saw the dark figure. We spoke to the couple that sold us the house and the husband said it was most likely his father acting in anger that we were remodeling his home that he had built. He said he would speak to his father and tell him to stop. I didn't know what that meant, but shortly after that most if not all of the activity seemed to stop. My parents still live in that house. When I was a kid my younger sister had an imaginary friend, her name was Emma. It was quite normal for her to ask if Emma could come with us whenever we went out as a family, so one year when there was a fun fair at the local park it seemed like nothing for her to ask this again. Although for some reason my mother ended up mentioning it to a neighbor who told my mother that there happened to be a young girl named Emma who used to live in the same house but a long time ago. We'd moved a couple of times in the years after that and I was sent upstairs to tell my sister dinner was ready, so off I went and entered her room. She was playing with some dolls, but I shit you not, one doll just fell straight down onto the floor, as if it was dropped rather than thrown, and it wasn't even in the same part of the room as my sister. I've always assumed it was a spirit that just attached itself to my sister rather than a house, but it still creeps me out to think about it. I was doing a night shift at a care home and a resident was shouting and unsettled, saying they could see someone crouching down outside their door looking at them. Me and another person on shift were on our way to them, and as they were shouting asking for something and as they stopped we heard a woman voice say, "No, I have never been so scared." It sounded so angry we both ran straight there and checked all doors and windows. It was a rural house too. You bet I wasn't alone for the rest of the shift. When I was in 7th grade, I was an extremely light sleeper, and took like 3 hours to fall asleep. Like scary light sleeper, I would wake up if people 2 floors underneath me moved. One night I go up to my room, about to sleep. I opened my door and I saw a brown cloud-like being/creature. Imagine the dirty bubble on meth. Its eyes and mouth were blacker than black and looked like they were melting. It made a scream that sounded like 100 different voices all yelling at the same time. I freaked out, quickly jumped into my bed, pulled the covers over my head, and I fell asleep immediately. That hasn't happened since. I woke up, and I was like 5 feet from my bed. It looked like I'd been thrown. I have a couple small ones. One time I was driving with some friends down a road that was supposedly haunted. As we were driving down a road parallel to it, the haunted road was one way. One friend's back started to ache, and the other friend's head followed soon after. These pains were there throughout the entire drive from then, to getting on the haunted road, until we turned onto the main road at the end. We tried again with the same path, just to be sure it wasn't a coincidence, and the exact same thing happened. I might accept that the happenings in the last story are more due to psychological phenomenons, however, this story seems less like that, though it still could be. I was dog-sitting my grandma's old dog. He seemed to be depressed after Grandpa died, and he would wake up in the middle of the night and howl. I was told to stay the night and sleep downstairs on the couch to keep him company. As I was going to bed, I started getting the feeling that I was being watched. When I looked around, I didn't see anything strange, but I felt something in the kitchen. I could just sense its presence somehow. It was pacing back and forth, rather quickly. I just decided to sleep upstairs in the guest room. That wasn't the only thing that happened in that house. You have the classic light flickering, of course. Additionally, Grandma would wake up to the Amazon Echo playing some of Grandpa's favorite music. My aunt died in the middle of the night. I woke up after I had a dream of just her saying goodbye. Didn't know she passed until the next morning, but it was the same time that I woke up that night. When I was maybe 5, 6 years old, I was laying in my bed watching TV, and I had this blanket my mom made for me on the floor. Well, while I was watching TV, the blanket rose very slowly as if someone was underneath it, and once it was at my eye level it just dropped like whatever was under the blanket was gone. I woke my mom up in the middle of the night and ended up sleeping in my baby brother's room. He's 4 years younger than me. Not me, but when my mom was 10, 1982, her and her friends were messing around with a Ouija board. I can't remember what they asked, but it was something about my mom's future, but it said SOMEONYOULOVEDWILLDIE. My mom laughed it off and didn't think too much about it. When she was 27, 1999, her best friend died in a car crash. She and her best friend were really close. They had 2 matching tattoos and had the closest bond. The night before she died, a random man came into their workplace at 3 a.m. and looked at them and asked if he could take a picture of them. They were a bit weirded out but agreed anyways. The man took the picture and left without saying anything else. Then the day before her funeral, the same man came back to where my mom still worked. He seen her and said he was sorry for her loss and gave her the photo. The picture is in the same place my mom worked at. It gave me weird vibes and goosebumps when I looked at it. My mom says that she can always feel her spirit around her. I've always been a skeptic about anything paranormal, but this freaked me out. I'm also named after dead best friend, and my mom believes in Ouija boards and definitely doesn't trust them. TLDR, Ouija board told my mom someone gonna die. Her best friend died when they were 27, rando took a pic of them the day before she died. I was 15 and at Boy Scout camp. I was sleeping in a hammock just outside of a tent. At one point I woke up in the night and looked out in the woods and was pretty sure I saw the spirits of about 4 or 5 Native Americans. One of them looked like my brother, so I thought maybe they were some of our ancestors. Now I'm pretty sure it was a dream or something, but it felt pretty real at the time. And side note, we are not Native American, we're actually white as ghosts. But our family oral history says that we have Native American and African ancestors. Most people don't believe me, but I used to live in a house that was paranormal. I lived in this house for the first 6 years of my life, and I can recall a lot of times. We had this mirror that was so-called a portal for spirits to enter our world from the afterlife. We had a psychic come to evaluate why we had spirits and such in our house, and said our mirror was cursed. My parents destroyed it, only for the spirits to be mad. They started fucking around with us. One time I can recall is when I went through this phase where every night I would wake up to thumps in my bedroom. Nothing was there, nor was it the neighbors when we asked. I ended up sleeping in our living room right next to my parents' bedroom for years, since my room was unlivable. I used to have this habit of walking up to my parents' bedroom to ask if I could sleep with them. They would always send me to bed. One spirit thought it was funny to replicate me. My mom told me to go back to bed, but no one was there. I was asleep. I have plenty more stories about this house if anyone wishes to know. My great-grandfather apparently haunted our old house. We lived in the southwest and he and great-grandmother loved it. This isn't really creepy or paranormal more than it is just one of the scariest moments of my life so far. I was at my camp a couple summers ago and we went off campus for a camp out. Most of the kids there slept in a tent or an Adirondack. But, me and my friends decided to sleep in hammocks a few hundred feet away from everyone else. This was in North Carolina, and in the woods of North Carolina there are a whole lot of black bears. Being an outdoorsy person, I knew quite a bit about bears, but I was not prepared for what was to come. In the middle of the night, I woke up and had to pee. It was pitch black outside, so I just decided to piss right outside my hammock. I got up and started peeing when I heard big, loud footsteps. I turned around to be met with a big, black mass in front of me. A bear, about 10 feet away. Though I was already peeing, I just about pissed myself. I freaked out, and while hurrying back into my hammock, I accidentally peed on my friend's shoes. Whoops. When we all had breakfast, one of the campers found a metal can of bug spray torn to shreds right next to another one of my friend's hammocks, and another claimed to have seen a bear right in front of their tent. And with the shoes, well, he thought it was another dude who put his hammock closer to the shoes and made him carry them down the mountain. We hiked there and back. But I didn't say anything. I had a nice backpack, probably more expensive than those shoes.